I'd rather not go to like 50 million and have like 1% profitability and be losing sleep than be at 10 million and 50% profitability.
Welcome to Relationship Capitalists, where super connectors share how they build trust, create value, and thrive when AI changes everything. In a world where expertise is being commoditized, your ability to build and sustain high-value human connections is what sets you apart. I'm your host, Jason Masciarelli. Let's dive in. Welcome to Relationship Capitalists. I'm your host, Jason Masciarelli. In a world being reshaped by AI, the one asset that cannot be automated is your ability to build deep, high-value human connections. I'm joined today by Grant Anderson and Sean Griffin, co-founders of Kettlebell Transformation. They have built two successful health and fitness companies together, grown a community of more than 117,000 people, and helped hundreds of men lose weight, build strength, and reclaim confidence from home. Today, we'll explore why community may be the ultimate advantage in health, business, and in life. Let's dive in. All right. Welcome, Grant and Sean. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been so excited to have you on because I'm personally grateful for having the connection that we've had over the last few years, and KT certainly had a big impact on my life. So it's good to have this discussion.
Right. So you could show up your sons on the slopes, right?
Exactly. Keep up at least. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How are you guys doing today? Where are you connected in from?
Well, I'm in Austin, newly moved to Austin, Texas, in our first full week here. So, that's where I am. Seamus?
I'm home in Evanston, just north of Chicago. Calling in from my bedroom. Actually, my office, which is a bedroom in our home.
I've been part of KT, I think it's been 3 years now, and have really seen how the partnership between you guys has been, pretty incredible in terms of how you've built this business. And I've always been impressed with how you've been able to kind of build trust at scale and give a lot of value. And then in our recent retreat that we had down in Austin, you had a rock star team of coaches that you've recruited and pulled together. And so really the theme of my podcast is around relationship capital. And I think that you guys have really demonstrated a lot of that in action in terms of how you've built KT. And so that's kind of what I want to chat about today. So, I'd love you to just start off with sharing a little bit about your relationship as co-founders and how that's been integral to your success.
I started Chicago Primal Gym back in 2013 after working with a few friends, my wife and a couple of longtime friends, just like in my back courtyard at the place that we were renting in Chicago. And I started Chicago Primal Gym I'd never even had a paying client before in my whole life. Like I'd never had my own client. I just knew that I wanted to be a business owner. And interestingly, and I think this is kind of where the story all starts, and also something, I guess, with relationship capital. I'm not exactly sure how to explain this, but it's something that we've just seen happen over and over again. I wanted a partner to open the gym. And the main reason I wanted a partner was because I was just scared to do it alone. Honestly, I had never had my own clients. I didn't feel like I could sell and market. So I actually asked one of my best friends to be my business partner. And for like a couple of months, we were planning on being partners together as we were seeking fundraising and planning things out. He fell out, dropped off. I asked another one of my long-term friends to be a business partner as well. He was in for like a week. And then he was like, I just can't do it. I don't want something to go wrong between our relationship if things don't work out from a business perspective. So I ended up just starting it on my own. And then within probably 2 months, maybe not even, I got a random email from Grant. Never met him before, had no idea who he was. He addressed me as Dear Mr. Griffin, comma, enter space. My name is Grant Anderson. I'm a young man from Rockford, Illinois. And, I just said, he said, are you hiring? Your website looks great. Looks like you do the type of fitness. My girlfriend at the time is moving to the city to do her graduate program. And so I said, well, I've got like 10 clients, so I'm not making any money. So I can't hire you, but you can feel free to come and work out with me at the gym if you'd like. And so Grant came and worked out at the gym, and we kind of just became friends in that way. And he came and trained a few times. He came in a couple of Saturdays. And that's when Grant and I's relationship capital started to kind of form. Grant did what he has been doing now for 13 years, which is just kind of giving first, and just saying, well, just let me come there and see what you're doing and hang out and see if I can lend some value. And he even like hopped in and started coaching. And I remember some of my clients at the time who were, they were new to me because I was brand new in that business. Grant was young and tan and muscular and looks like Thor, and I'm kind of like Irish and skinny and like not that jacked by any means. And so like my clients afterwards, especially the younger ladies, were like, so who's Grant? I'm like, oh, don't worry about him. He's just a guy. So anyway, long story short, I ended up having a different business partner in Chicago Primal Gym who I met him randomly. He was my partner for a little while and we hired Grant. And I can remember when I was making an offer for Grant to become a full-time employee, he was like, because I offered him a very low base salary at the time, but it was all I could afford. And he was like, just tell me what you think we could make one day. Just throw a number out there, just something. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe 100K, annually. And he's like, all right, I'm in. And so at that time, we hired him as a full-time employee. I ended up falling out with the other business partner. And within 48 hours, I asked Grant to be my business partner. Because at the time, he really was my business partner. I mean, we had been running Chicago Primal Gym together. We had been building that community, really discovering our identity as kettlebell coaches and as people who built a community together, which I know is kind of what you wanted to talk about, which is how do you build community at scale? And Grant and I kind of just like learned that by doing, really. And it was always such a focus for us of like, it's the experience coupled with really quality training that is fun and gets you strong. And when you combine those two things, magic happens for people, because not only do they fall in love with getting strong with kettlebells, but they also just really enjoy being part of a community. And when you have mastery and community together, it's a powerful combo to keep people coming back and really buying into what you're doing. And that's always been something I feel like Grant and I have done very well together. We've always had that shared mission of wanting to build that. So that's kind of like a long story short in terms of, but I think the world just like throwing me a bone when I opened the gym, because I always tell people like, you want to know everything. You want to think you have everything figured out, but like until you actually just go do the thing, even though it scares you and you don't have everything lined up, it's like Grant would have never reached out to me had I not been like, fine, I'm just going to open the business anyway, and we've seen that over and over again. So
you guys built that and then you had to eventually shut it down and then you started.
Correct.
And, fast forward today, like you've grown KT over the last, when did you start it? What year?
2021.
yeah.
Okay.
September,
So, yeah.
October.
Yeah,
2021.
5 years about,
Right.
Give a sense of like how you've built KT over the last 5 years and kind of where you've gotten to at this point.
Yeah, I mean, so we shut down the gym and we actually, Sean and I took 3 months off and we didn't talk for about 6 weeks. And which is Sean likes to tell the story. I was like in Colorado for like a month or something. I came back, I walked into his office. Sean looked at me and goes, "We still partners?" And I'm like, "We're still partners." Like, all right. He goes, "All right, let's build KT." And so KT was started in the fall of 21. It was just Sean and I. We had mapped out together basically a roadmap that we wanted to be able to take clients on from a training and nutrition standpoint. And the mission when we started it was to help guys build a body that they're proud of, set the example for their family, feeling like they set the example for their kids, and also fall in love with kettlebells, like Sean said. Like it's because that was the story for Sean and I. Is kettlebell training kind of at its core was the thing that I think, at least for me personally, and I think for Sean, unlocked this level of self-confidence, like just confidence in your own skin through, just the workouts and being able to get strong and the systematic process for being able to like continue to show up and, follow the systems that we laid out. And so at the beginning, it was just like, how do we try to transfer this feeling to as many men as possible? And at the time when we started it, we had owned the gym for a long time and the gym was men and women, and we started KT and it was a men's only program. And when we launched and announced that, we got a lot of pushback, like a lot. Like our core network of people, basically half that network was pissed off at us. Well, almost half, not all of them. And that was something that Sean and I kind of had to like deal with for a while, because like, okay, we're launching this new thing. We had no idea exactly what we were doing in the beginning. It was literally just like, okay, Grant is going to post on social media and try to get the word out there, and Sean is going to coach most of the guys who we sign up. I remember we sent one launch email, and that signed up our first few clients. And after that, man, it was just Sean and I for about a year. And it was just consistently trying to put our name out there on social media, posting nonstop all day, every day, and then coaching the guys who were in our program and doing our best to, like you said, Jason, just like trying to give. And I think the other thing we had to learn along the way in that first year or two is like we evolved our roadmap, right? We had the skeleton of like what training roadmap and nutrition roadmap we were going to take a guy on. And a lot of that to this day is the same, but through obviously trial and error and actually having guys go through it, we've evolved it probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 times at this point, maybe more, and built onto it. So like right now we have almost a 5-year roadmap that guys go on.
I think what we learned with KT, which was surprising for both of us, was how community scaled online, because that was what, one of the things we were most scared of shutting down the gym was, we're going to lose this sense of an in-person community where everybody sees each other and, knows each other. And, we had parties at the gym. I mean, we had a Christmas party every year that was just an absolute party, and we had bags leagues. I mean, we did a lot of stuff, fundraising. We did a Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving with like 130 people at one time in the gym. So we really had an outstanding community locally. And we were definitely worried that when we went online, we were going to lose that. And the community is different now, obviously, because people aren't seeing each other in person. But what we've learned pretty quickly was that the community actually was very strong online too, with a lot of the same kind of themes, which is celebrating people succeeding, like just celebrating people hitting class milestones, hitting get up milestones, welcoming them to the community and putting their name and location out there, like having people drop their green check marks in the group to show that they're doing the work. Like that's how we figured out how to kind of scale this idea of community. And now we get comments all the time from guys talking about how this is like the only good place on the internet, and they feel so, connected, even though they don't even know what people look like, which I think is funny because, a coach will share a picture of one of his clients and I'll be like, I had no idea that that's what that guy looked like, and he's like getting insane results. But our community is, 3-4 times bigger now than it was in the gym. And it's people all over the United States as opposed to just people who could, obviously make it into Chicago's a big city. So like, unless you lived in Lakeview where the gym was, you probably weren't coming to CPG, which really limited our reach.
The one thing I'll say too, and I'll just kind of go back a little bit, the thought process of choosing to do the uncomfortable thing, like Sean choosing to do the uncomfortable things and go out on his own. I remember sending that email feeling very uncomfortable, being like, well, I have no idea who this guy is. I'm just going to go for it. I remember, and I'm going to give a ton of credit to Sean here because, it's interesting. I went to probably 2 other gyms before I came to Chicago Primal Gym because I was looking for a job in the city. And I went and worked out of those gyms, met the owners, hung out for probably a couple hours at each of them. And it was like, I knew it wasn't the right place for me. And I walked into Chicago Primal Gym and I knew within 20 minutes that this was the spot for me. And that was because of Sean's energy. Like that was just because of, I think it's just because of who Sean is. And it's why I think we connected so well. And I think it's why we've been business partners now for how long, over a decade. And I think one of the big reasons why is because, I don't know, there's just not, Sean and I, every once in a while, we've like disagreed on strategy or something like that. But that has been less than maybe 1% of our entire relationship together. And I think that the reason is because neither Sean and I have a big ego. And like our relationship was built on just like, we are very similar in terms of we just want to give. And at the time in the gym, it was all about how do you make people feel? Like that was, I look back to think about like, I wasn't we weren't great coaches by like on paper, we had the most certifications or the most exercise science background or anything. It was just that like when people came to the gym, they knew that they were going to feel incredible. And it was going to be in part because of the environment that we were trying to create, or the environment our coaches at the time were trying to create. And it's the same thing now. It's the same thing we started KT with, is knowing that like, if we can try to create an environment where guys feel great, like I remember Alex Ashcraft, a longtime member of ours, called it a virtual locker room. It's like, virtual locker room, like, and that's because he just like, even though he's never really met anybody, he just feels a certain way from obviously the, you know, stuff he's doing and the results he's getting, and then the relationships he's built. So
yeah, huge. How you feel, how you make people feel, I think is the key to, at least one of the keys we found a community, as I said before, is mastery and community combined, but like making people feel. One of the things we talked about was this idea of mastery through watching someone else. Like if you watch someone else get a PR in person at the gym, let's say you're brand new and you watch someone who's more experienced hitting a PR, you're like, whoa, that's cool. I want to be like that. Maybe you're a little intimidated, but like when you understand that that person started right where you're starting, you instantly feel a part of that. And you know, you're kind of in that. And so we did the same thing, you know, with KT, where it's like guys come in, they get coached one-on-one, they build a relationship with their coach, but they also start seeing other people succeeding inside of that community where they're actively participating as well, and everyone on one kind of roadmap. And I think people feeling good is pretty understated for, I mean, every community I would imagine is like, you know, people coming together where they kind of have shared purpose and likes, you know, but you stay in a community because you feel good when you're participating in that community.
Yeah, and you feel a deep connection as well. Right?
Yeah,
And I think, you know, so I come from, you know, a software as a service background, and, you know, many SaaS companies struggle to get to the size and impact that you guys have gotten to in terms of, you know, I look at you and I'm like, wow, they've built like a recurring revenue business that is having great impact for thousands of guys out there, and, you know, having, you know, long-term impact for people. Right. And so it's just, it's kind of incredible that the same strategies that people use in tech, know it or not, you guys have applied to KT and have built something that's pretty special, where you've got hundreds and thousands of guys that feel connected to each of you, and they feel as part of a community that probably makes them want to stay, right?
Yeah.
And makes them more motivated to be accountable.
That's the goal. I mean, if the goal is to get guys to continue to do the work long term, then they got to feel connected to the community. And that's the reason to stay for years, when you've already learned all the skills and you don't necessarily need the one-on-one instruction anymore to like break through. You know, at that point, I think a lot of guys are just staying because I just like being a part of this group. I like seeing all the other people, you know, doing the same thing that I'm committed to doing. And I think they, you know, whether Grant and I are willing to admit it or say that this is a part of it, I think they build trust in us as leaders. And that is something that they can kind of get behind. You know, we all like following people who we look up to and say, these are guys I want to follow, or people I want to follow. I mean, Grant and I are the same with business leaders as well, you know.
regardless of how much it's us, we know it's a lot with their coach, right? Because the other thing, because like fitness and nutrition, I mean, we got AI now, right? I saw one of your questions on here. It's like, why AI tools could replace, health and fitness. 100%. People could go on ChatGPT or Claude and say, write me the best fitness plan in the world. But the reason why Sean posted about this the other day, said KT is a accountability and execution program. And at the core of that is a connection with a coach who actually genuinely cares about you. And your willingness to be vulnerable enough to genuinely connect with that individual, so that when you run into all the things that actually do get in the way of you showing up and doing the work that's going to produce the change that you're after, which is all of the emotional reasons why guys will fall off or stop or, eat like shit or not work out for a couple weeks. It's not because they don't know, quote unquote, what they should be doing. It's because of all those things that are getting in their way of actually taking action and executing. And the reason, like the guys who get the best results in our program, they get the best results because they have that genuine connection with a coach who they believe actually cares about them. And they genuinely feel that care, not from like an accountability from a drill sergeant, but from a coach who just like, now you actually care about whether I'm doing this or not. And that's the thing I'm going to feel accountable to. I'm going to show up for you. I heard we did a client interview not too long ago, and the guy was like, I didn't want to let Coach Hugh go down. I'm like, right? And I'd actually never heard a client say that before. Like, I didn't want to let Coach Hugh go down. And it's like, well, that's probably the difference maker.
Yeah. But one of the hard things when you start a company is getting beyond the two of you as founders. And I think what's cool is in the last couple of years, you've really kind of grown significantly in terms of the number of coaches and a really high quality group of coaches. And even people who I think even mentored you guys early on in your Kettlebell journey, right? And so tell me a little bit about how you've been able to do that. And my assumption is that you've kind of given them job opportunity or income opportunities that are probably greater than what they could do as independent folks.
I mean, that's, I think the foundation right there that you said is the combination of the income opportunity as well as what they're able to actually do and the impact that they're able to actually have in the role that we're able to put them in. Specifically, if I'm talking about coaches, I mean, our team is only half coaches. The other half are administrative staff, sales, and back end administration. But from a coaching staff perspective, I'll say we were, from a business perspective, we were plateaued for 18 months, probably, roughly, where it was Grant and myself, two other coaches, and maybe one or two kind of administrative back end people. And it wasn't until we tweaked our offer and broke through the ceiling on how to actually sell our program that we were able to scale up our sales team, and our coaching team scaled because of the fact that we were acquiring so many new members and growing our top line revenue so much that, okay, now we have the clientele to be able to give out to coaches and create this opportunity for the people who we brought onto the team. But one of the things I'll say about what Grant and I have always cared really deeply about is, first off, making the team and the culture something that people truly want to be a part of, something that's, focused on deeply caring about the impact that you're making and like really truly wanting to be a part of the success of the company. So we've always had profit shares. We've always sought to pay our employees far above and beyond market rate. And in the fitness industry, market rate is not very good. I mean, not a lot of people stay in the fitness industry because unless you're grinding out and coaching for 12 hours a day and doing high-end personal training, you're probably not going to make very good money. And, once the other part about that is like, once you start having a family, like the coaching, the fitness coaching industry is brutal because you're going to be servicing people in person before work and after work, the exact times that you'd want to be with your family. And so that was actually a really big impetus, honestly, for closing down Chicago Primal Gym and going virtual. I was starting to have a family, and Grant wanted some mobility from a location standpoint. But to get back to my point, what we've been able to do with our coaches is offer a very similar setup, which is you get to be part of a great team making real impact, but also you're going to be able to structure your schedule built around your family life, which is something that allows our coaches to still have the impact that they want. Because at their heart, our coaches love coaching kettlebells and love seeing other men, get strong and become healthier versions of themselves so that they can go serve their families and their work networks. Like that's what we're all passionate about. You probably know, I mean, Rich, he's got 3 kids. He was a former business owner, right? Many of our coaches, I think 80% of our coaches have 2 or more kids, so they're family men, in their late 40s, 50, 54, I think is our oldest coach. So it's just giving them an opportunity to, one, have a deep impact with their clients and really know that they don't have to like go out and market and try to sell and like be focused there. Like you guys just like coach, just over deliver. We've got a team for acquiring clients and filling you guys up and putting great clients on your team. And we've got a system that you can run. And with that allows us to offer, a pretty good financial opportunity for coaches where, they're making more than they would make on their own or coaching at a gym. And that's, I think, what's really unlocked for us the ability to like go out and recruit, really talented individuals. And I'll let Grant speak further to that, but that's been what it is. It's like, look, you're going to make a huge impact and you're going to make a lot more money than you were making before. And you're going to have a schedule that you like. And if you want to spend mornings and evenings with your kids, great. We love that. Like, as long as you're serving your clients, that's awesome.
100%. I think the timeline too is important to note because Sean talked about being plateaued because we started, it was just Sean and I for about a little over a year. And then we hired Rich. And I think one of the things that's important to note is that like Sean and I have Rich. Shout out to Rich, because Rich was like a really key player to bring into KT. He was like yeah, crucial hire, because what happened was Rich came in and Rich started being the head coach at KT, which means he took on most of the new clients that came in, including you. And it allowed Sean and I to try to continue to figure out, okay, well, how do we market and sell this thing, which took us a long time. Not to say that we have the world figured out now, but what during that plateau period, that 2-year period, Rich was leading the charge on really refining the systems and really trying to make sure that the client experience was incredible. And then we kind of plugged one more coach in, then one more coach in, and then we were still kind of plateaued. But the reason I bring this up is that once we had figured out a way for us to accelerate, this was on the pretty much the back half of 2025. We had the systems that Rich had built and that we had to kind of build together were so ironclad. It was easy for us to hire coaches. It was easy for us to bring on 2 coaches, 3 coaches, 4 coaches. Like we brought on 10 plus coaches in like 3 months. And it was because of that system. Like the period of being plateaued was, annoying, but at the same time, it gave us the chance to be like, all right, let's like, this stuff is like ready for when we start to scale. And which, there's always stuff that you can do better, right? But I think the core things in place, Rich was just a huge piece of that. And without a doubt, Sean and I are definitely in a place now where we just know that in order for KT's mission to go as big as possible, for us to scale this thing as big as possible, for us to impact as many men as possible, it is like finding incredibly talented, incredibly hardworking individuals who align with what we believe in, who want to hop on this bus, hop on this rocket ship, this kettlebell shaped rocket ship, and try to go to the moon with us, and hiring Rich and hiring pretty much everyone we've hired since then was for that very reason. And it's interesting because it's like when you talk about relationship, like the people we bring onto our team, like Rich and Coach Peter and all these guys are very like I like hanging out with them. Like we just did our retreat not too long ago. Like all these guys are such incredible human beings. And it's funny, I mentioned that to Sean, I feel like not too long ago, where I was like, man, I feel like all these guys that come to KT and sign up, it's like all these guys are such great guys.
I was blown away when I went to the retreat in Austin.
Yeah.
And my renewal was right after that. I was like, this is a no-brainer. And I'm like, and what's cool is that you've assembled a team of like a motley crew of different personas, of like true personalities and experts, like in their own right, and in their own style as well, which is great.
Yep. And shout out to Rich, because he's been the guy who's grown the team. He's been the lead there on really saying, this guy is KT guy, this guy's not KT guy. So,
and it's cool to see like people that I follow on Instagram. Yeah. And then after like a year, then all of a sudden you guys are like, oh, we brought this guy on as a coach. And I'm like, holy shit, congrats to you guys.
Right. The kettlebell world's a small world. So we've just been like, okay, well, who are the guys we know? It's like, hey, we got a pretty good opportunity over here if you want to keep coaching kettlebells.
And you've got a lot of trust for them as well, because they're out, they've got maybe a side business, they've got their own channel. And it doesn't seem like you've kind of been overly trying to control that. You're just focused on doing what you guys do well, integrating them in, and giving them the flexibility that allows them to live their lives as well. So it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's the goal. We don't want to control anyone, but we also, we talk a lot about, hey, you got to run our system though. Like it's one thing to have your own persona on Instagram. It's another thing when you're actually in the trenches coaching clients in this business. You got to run them through,
because these guys each have kind of their clientele, their book of clientele with us, which Sean and I kind of get to see from a high level perspective, but the everyday, like in the weeds stuff, the way that they're actually communicating stuff, that does take some trust, I'd say it takes trust on our end, but I feel like it's easy for us because we trust Rich a lot. And, we've been in this together with Rich for a long time now. And, and just like, that's the kind of business that I think Sean and I want to be able to run, which is like, giving people the freedom to feel like they can operate and do their best work and not be micromanaged, while at the same time, just having standards and things in place that where everyone kind of understands the culture and I would say, the high level of expectations for everybody on the team.
So one thing, just a little bit of a pivot. So, I always talk about how I think building relationships in business is like fitness, and in the sense that you have to do it every day. And if you do it over every day in a consistent way, the value compounds, right? And I think you guys have modeled this and systematized it very well, both from kind of a broad community perspective on Instagram. Like, you're giving away a lot of content, you're building credibility, you're building trust, you've got a lot of engagement, and then you've got kind of your free community space, and then you've got your high touch model, which is really kind of a premium, white glove model with that one-to-one coaching experience, right? And, it feels like, I feel like I'm interacting with KT like every day through like all these different channels, right? There's the app, there's you guys on Instagram, there's my coach. And so, just talk about, how do you guys see that? And was that intentional, or was that something that kind of came together and you learned as you went?
Learn as we go.
I mean, it's great to hear that is what your experience is, Jason. It really is. Well, I'll say this too about our community. One of the things that we learned very early on in CPG was that if you just celebrate the process, then people will get excited about it. And the beauty of fitness is that it inherently is at least multiple times every week process. You're going to train, in our system, obviously you train 4 days a week. So that's why we call it the anchor habit, because it is literally the anchor of everything we do is you actually training 4 days a week. And so we celebrated milestone sessions at CPG, meaning when someone hit their 50th session, they got to hold up the big board and we took a class picture, and same thing for 100, same thing up to, I think Cassie probably got the most classes before we shut down the gym. She had like 800 or 900 classes, when we shut down. And we carried that straight into KT with not only celebrating people's class milestones, but also asking them to drop green check marks. Actually, that happened organically, funny enough, which most of the community stuff has kind of happened organically. Like celebrating Turkish get-ups happened organically too. That was never like a plan of ours. It just kind of started to happen. And then we systemized it like we've done with everything. But the check marks, because like you said, right, relationships are like fitness in the sense that you have to check in consistently and you have to have a sort of a routine process to make it go. And also I think the importance there is that you're not always motivated to keep things going, but if you have a routine that you can fall back on that you don't want to let go, then it becomes easier for you to be like, I'll just justify doing this anyway. And that's where this idea of just like a shared community space where the only thing you have to do is just like check in and say that you did the workout. That is checking in. I remember I was listening to some podcast, or maybe I saw an Instagram reel or something. I think it was Huberman talking about how he's got like these two buddies that he just texts every morning, which is just like, hey, good morning. Like just that. And like just that alone is enough to make you know that you're not alone. Like you got it. And it's just like him and two buddies. And I thought about, at first I was like, I wish I had that. And I was like, oh wait, I text Brant by like 6 a.m. every day. It's like, oh, I already do have that, but we have it with KT as well in terms of like, you go in there and, sure enough, Steve Rose and Mike Kastorf and all these guys, John Cannon and Alex Ashcraft, they've all checked their green check marks by the time I've woken up. And it's like, there we go.
Yeah. The idea of doing it every day, no matter how you feel. When you talk about like our free stuff versus our paid community, I'll take this to like trying to grow KT. There's been these phases of growing KT. The first phase was just posting on social every day. And that, right, like the idea of Jason, where you said you just have to keep doing it, and you're, whether you're not sure if it's working, it is kind of like fitness. This guy's got to do the work, and they step on the scale. They're like, I didn't lose any weight today. It's like, well, yeah, but you got to go back and do the workout again today. You got to keep doing it, regardless of whether you lose weight or you gain weight or you stay the same. And it's the same way with all these phases where posting organically, we had to keep posting it every day, not knowing if or when the next client was going to come in the beginning. And then we transitioned to starting to make ads, and we're like, okay, well, we got to keep making new ads. We have to figure out which ads are going to hit, which ads aren't going to hit. We had to keep figuring out how to make new VSLs. This video that a guy would see after he clicked on our ad. It's like, well, this video seems like it's working a little bit, but let's test a different one. And so it's been this constant game of like, you're right, just showing up and continuing to do the work, even if you don't think it's working, or you don't think, you're like wondering when you're going to break through. 1000%. It's in the book, The Go-Givers, talks about like the building a business is a exercise of faith, right? I think it's in one of the Go-Giver books where he talks about building a business as an exercise of faith. It 100% is. Like Sean and I have more times than you could count be texting back and forth about like wondering if KT's gonna make it or whatever. Like the discussions that we used to have a couple of years ago would get dark. That's for sure. Because like sometimes you can go months feeling like you don't have shit figured out. You're just like, all right, we'll just keep going. Because how many guys have come to KT and been like, oh yeah, I've been watching you guys for months. Well, it's a good thing we didn't stop posting, or we didn't stop running ads, or else we never would have came to KT, you know? So
if I were to try to compare relationships and fitness in the sense where, you know, Jason, you were saying, you kind of led this off with like, you have to do it every day. It's like the only way you actually continue to do it every day is if you actually have like this deep desire to actually make it work, and you are able to separate the action from how you're feeling in any given day, and instead have this overarching like, no, I want to have great relationships. So even if I don't feel like it, I'm going to make sure that I make the time to invest in the relationships consistently on an ongoing routine basis, because I know that my motivation might be down now, but it's going to go back up, and over time it's going to pay off no matter how you feel. And fitness is the exact same way, where it's like you put half the time you're not even going to want to do the work, and you might even question like, why am I doing it? But then you're able to step back and be like, no, fitness is important to me. I know that if I keep this routine going, eventually my motivation is going to come back up, and the time that I invested where I didn't feel like it, I'm going to feel really good about, and it's going to compound over time, because fitness is the same. It compounds over time. You know, if you go for 4 months, but then you stop for 4 months, and you go for 4 months, and you stop for 4 months, over that 16-month period, you're not going to be fit because you gave up twice. Whereas if you like gave a 75% effort for all 16 months, you'd be super fit.
So what's the future look like for you guys? What's the ambition, and where do you want to take this?
I'm glad someone finally asked us that. I think Grant and I have been avoiding asking each other that question for a little while now.
I think the only time that Sean and I asked this question, like really just asked this question, was in December. We went to a business conference that was out in Vegas, and one of the points of the business conference was talking about how do you make your business valuable? Like if you were to sell your business, like what are the attributes of it? You know, what does it need to look like from an EBITDA standpoint, not having key man risk, a bunch of different things. And, you know, Sean and I at the time, and this could change, who knows, but Sean and I at the time were like, I don't know, we don't really have, it was never really a thing where we talked about, we're like, okay, we're going to grow this for 5 years and sell it. We never talked about that. Because I think at its core, we love what we do. We love what we get to do. And we enjoy the impact that we make. And we believe it makes it creates this incredible financial opportunity for everyone who's within KT, you know, Sean and myself included. But right now, our goal right now is to kind of be where we're at from a business standpoint. There's some profitability that we need to increase on our end before we want to continue to try and scale, because we were stuck for about 2.5 years, and then we kind of broke through last year, at the end of last year, and scaled up to where we are now, and which was kind of like almost pretty much tripling our business last year. And with that, our infrastructure grew, and this year we've experienced the challenges that come with that, right? Where acquisition gets a little bit more expensive. You've built your team up to handle a big acquisition, but now your acquisition slows down a little bit because it's a little more expensive. So, you know, our goal is to, like, long-term is to continue to grow, but we can't do that unless, like, we don't really have vanity metrics around, like, we want to be at 50 million or 100 million. Like, I'd rather not go to like 50 million and have like 1% profitability and be losing sleep than be at, you know, 10 million and 50% profitability. Right. So
I think also what's cool is you guys are more you're in the game and you're in it for the long term to have impact on people's lives. And
Yeah.
what's the number that you said initially? It was 10,000 men you want to help transform.
Yeah.
Is that what the
Yeah.
target was? And I think that you guys are well on your way to that, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. That's awesome.
That's a good way to put it. I think at this point we're probably somewhere since we started 1,500 plus. So get to 10,000. Like everyone will be feeling good. Everyone, if we help 10,000 guys, give them a lot, So
It's interesting though. I feel like we've kind of separated from this, like having these kind of big goalposts, and instead we've just really been focused on like, how do we just build a really solid business that is profitable every month, not incredibly high stress, both for Grant and I, as well as for our team. Like, how do we just make it so that people love working here, love making impact? And then once we feel like we have that, how do we then just scale that impact? And we were, I think, for a long time, heavily focused on like top line, like Grant was saying, like, well, we want to have $100 million business or a $15 million business or whatever. And I think this year so far has kind of been a blessing in disguise for us. I think when we look back on this, maybe 2, 3, 4 years from now, because our profitability really kind of cratered versus where it was at the end of last year. But that's caused us to step back and say, hold on, we probably have some things about this model that we need to fix before we continue to grow again. And also I think, forced Grant and I to ask questions of like, why do we actually want to grow from where we are? Like at what cost and for what purpose, and it forces Grant and I to ask the question a lot of like, well, when Grant said that we plateaued, I was thinking to myself, well, we plateaued in revenue, but we didn't plateau in impact though, because we kept bringing on new clients who were getting amazing results. And so like I don't feel like our impact has plateaued at all. And knowing that we're making the impact that we want to make, and we get to wake up and do that. And I get to take my kids to school in the morning, and I get to pick my kids up from school in the afternoon, and I golf twice this week. Like that's kind of the point, right? It's like, and it'd be great if we were, 2, 3 times bigger and that came with 2, 3 times more profit. That'd be awesome. And I absolutely see us heading there. And I think Grant and I ultimately would love to find a way to help people beyond just the one-on-one coaching, which is so high ticket, so that we could open up our reach further for people who maybe could never really afford or would never invest in one-on-one coaching. We definitely give plenty of free stuff away, but we think maybe down the road there are some lower ticket opportunities there. But we did that in 2024, got super distracted and stalled out real hard, and it was when we cut that completely that 2025 we broke through. So
cool,
meandering way to say I don't know what's next. We're just trying to survive.
Yeah, no, that was great. So my last question is, kind of along your journey, has there been one relationship that has been become like a strategic advantage or had a huge impact on your business outside of the two of you guys?
You, Jason.
No, come on, man. Not at all. That's for sure.
Wow.
Without a doubt, though, I mean, it is worth saying, like me meeting Sean changed the entire trajectory of my life. Like, without a doubt. Like if obviously, we can look at, okay, a relationship I built after that, but 100% it was meeting Sean, and it was having the opportunity to become Sean's partner. Because I think ever since then, for me personally, it has been this constant opportunity to grow. Like since I became Sean's partner, and since I met Sean, it was like this constant opportunity for me to continue to push myself to grow, not just in business, but just in my personal life and how I view the world and how I take care of myself and how I view stress and how I view what's important and what's not important. And like so much of that has been shaped by my relationship with Seamus. And it's like, 100%. That would be number one for me.
Well, I was going to say, I hate to be corny, but I would say the same. Because honestly, like I said, when I started CPG on my own, I wanted to have a partner. And I think partnering with Grant, the way that it happened, it was a 48-hour period where the guy who was my partner was like, this isn't right for me. He was living in San Francisco at the time. It didn't make sense for us to be partners. And he was like, I'm just going to give you the equity back. No worries. Like he hadn't bought in or anything. And I was like, immediately went to my wife and I was like, I mean, I have to offer this to Grant. Right. And she's like, absolutely do it. And I think what's really interesting about that is we've met, I think Grant and I collectively have met plenty of people along this journey that have been influential in how we think about and see business. But we have such a unique relationship in the sense that we've been partners for 12 years now, but we're also like best buddies and go on golf trips together. And like, it's hard to discount that, because I think what it has been more than business partnership is like, we call each other work wives for a reason, because it's been like and I know my wife would laugh at this, but agree. It's like, it's been like a life partnership where the stuff Grant just touched on wasn't business. It was growth and stress management and relationships and life. And like, I feel like to have someone like that you can go deep with and create a long-term connection. This is all about relationships, right? It's like to have someone like that. Because you could look at it and be like, well, if you guys would have had partners that were 50 times smarter than you, because a lot of times Grant and I are like one brain. Like I'll go on to school and be commenting on someone's post, and I'll look up and I'll be like, Grant already said the exact thing that I'm typing right now. So like we probably cannibalize each other's like talents and skills a lot as partners, which could be something that, holds us back. But it also allows us, I think, to share the experience in a way that just makes it so like, you know what, at least we got each other, buddy. And that, it's good to have someone like that in your life. I feel like a lot of people don't have that at all. I know so many people who've had business partnerships that have completely blown up. And it's like, that just hasn't, fortunately, I've had a couple. They didn't blow up in like bad ways, but they just failed, and so now that ours hasn't, it's been rewarding.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. I appreciate you guys taking the time today. Is there anything else you want to share about KT?
Yeah, I want to share one thing. We went to Scottsdale, Arizona in 2023, February. And I remember we were hiking and you took your shirt off and I was like, dude, you're freaking jacked, man.
You talking about Grant?
No, I'm talking about you.
Oh my, you.
I'm talking about our host. And I remember being like, how old are you? And you were like 51. And I'm like, dude, that's freaking cool, man. So
that's fun. Yeah, you guys,
I know you put in the work.
Came in an important time in my life and helped me get in shape, so I appreciate it.
Well, it means a lot for you to invite us on your show, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're one of the few, Jason, who could say you went to the first KT retreat way back in 2023. That was a core group of guys.
Yeah,
KTOGs.
Yeah, and it was so much bigger and more robust when we just had it in Austin, and so it's fantastic to see how it grows. So I look forward to the next one.
If people want to find us, they can look up our website, kettlebelltransformation.co, or they can follow us on Instagram at Kettlebell Sean, at Kettlebell Grant. We post stuff on there pretty much daily. And if they want to talk about how the program works, they should reach out to you and ask you about your experience.
Fantastic. Awesome, guys. We'll talk soon. See ya.
Appreciate you, Jason. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
What a great conversation with Grant and Sean. They remind us that transformation is not just about having the right plan. It's about trust, accountability, identity, and the people who help us get going when motivation fades. To help us grow this community, please take 30 seconds to follow, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It's the best way to support the show. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to Relationship Capitalists. If today's conversation sparked something for you, the best way to invest in your own relationship capital is simple. Share this episode with one person in your network who needs to hear it. To learn more about how to build and scale your relationship capital through proven frameworks and simple daily actions, visit relationshipcapital.com. And if you haven't already, search for Relationship Capitalists on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Relationship Capitalists is produced by Fane, the B2B podcast agency that grows your business. I'm Jason Masciarelli. Thanks for being here.